Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to your beautiful Monday morning for the Macro Lounge podcast. I am Chris Bold, of course, joined by the Queen of Sparkles. A little bit understated sparkles today, no sparkle headphones, but Rachel Mead, all the way from down the line in Tauranga. How are you today, Rachel?
Not too bad. I'm just tired, need my coffee.
I thought I'd get a bit of an energy kick from one of these primes from Sprint Fit, and then I was like, yeah. And then I read the back, and it says it's got no bloody caffeine in it. I was like,
what's the point?
That's what I thought. I said, no, why bother? Very disappointing.
Just flavored.
Very tasty, I might add. Yeah, no, that's what I thought. I might as well just drink water. But I got my hopes up. So.
Hey, hydration.
And anything new? Hydration, that's true. This is important. I'm sure we'll talk about that. So anything new in the world of bikinis? Anybody? Anything exciting? Any gossip for us?
Oh, well, I have been... I can't remember if I said this last week, but I have fallen into a little bit of a swimsuit hole where I have started developing a couple of new swimsuit types. Yeah, I probably don't need to be doing that right now, but I just can't stop apparently. So now we should have 2 new swimsuit styles coming soon.
I would like it noted that this is not a project that I put on your plate. So I have no responsibility for the excessive workload that you're taking on this week.
But see, the thing is though, with the hyperfocus, you can't control what the focus is on. And it doesn't matter if you know that it's the wrong thing. You're rolling a rock down a hill and you cannot stop it. It's like an avalanche.
So, the moral of the story is don't pick up the damn rock in the first place, right?
Yeah, but you also, don't know. You have to just keep picking... say your whole life is just picking up rocks and those are your tasks. You just happen to pick up this one special rainbow rock and you're like...
This is why we don't take Rachel to the beach, because she's picking up, shiny rock, shell. Then we're like, Rachel, down here.
Shiny.
None of this surprises me.
Honestly, my parents should have known better when I was younger, because I used to absolutely love going with my mum to Spotlight and just feeling all the fabrics and all the sparkly pretty things.
This also does not surprise me in the slightest. I think, yes, it's one of those things where I need to talk to your parents and go, so what was the first sign? I'm just curious, did you not pick up on these things?
No, I wasn't allowed to take sewing in school. I had to take math instead. It was very upsetting.
So now you're telling me you're actually good at math?
No, I almost didn't get in. They actually were going to ban me.
I like that. No. It's like, okay.
I was hoping to not get in, because if I didn't get in, I was going to be able to take sewing as my backup subject. But no, here we are.
Right. Okay.
They let me in, sadly, and then I was gutted. So, moral of the story, guys, failed subjects that you don't want to do.
Yeah. Or just blame your parents. That seems to be...
That too. But anyway, how are you, Chris?
Very well, thank you. Very well. A little recovering this weekend. We did a fundraising charity walk for men's mental health on Saturday, and I discovered 25Ks is a long bloody way to walk.
Would be.
Especially when you're responsible for getting all the stragglers behind and saying, come on, let's get to the end. And then you realize you're walking up the line and down the line and up the line. So fortunately, I wasn't tracking my steps, because I'm pretty sure that I went over there. I did cheat towards the end, though. I decided that in the interest of self-preservation, and I called it crowd management, I decided to jump on a Lime scooter instead. I thought it was just an intelligent use of my time. Go see more people. So that was good. We had 130 guys, so it was fun. It was busy. Valerie was in charge of the hydration, and we had the guys from Sprint Fit Nutrition Systems donate a lot of products to it, which was awesome. So that was cool. And now I'm just quietly recovering and going, 55 years old, your hips do not do the stuff that they used to. It's like, I've complained a lot, and Valerie's just telling me to harden up.
Just calling you an old man, probably.
I do believe that language was used. So, yeah. And I did get in trouble this week for calling Helena, Haley. She did quote every single name that I referred to in her Sharn last week. So I'm now no longer going to refer to her by name. I'm just going to call her she who must be behaved.
Okay.
Safer for me. So if she's got any complaint, I could have gone with just skeletal, but I decided that was probably a little bit too direct. And she...
No, that nickname's already been taken.
She's also kind of scary when she's in prep brain. So I'm like, safety. Just don't mention her at all. It'll be good.
So that starts now?
Yep, from now. So we're no longer referring to Helen at all for the next 12 months.
Okay, or until she says otherwise.
Yeah, because we do as we're told around here.
Yes,
right.
We are the best behaved, always.
Okay, we'll go with that. Speaking of behaviour, what are we going to talk about this week?
So, today we are talking about working smarter, not harder, which is
two things
a
that
very
we're
common
really good
issue.
at.
Very common issue in sports, because people always think that the harder you work, the more progress you're going to make, which is not necessarily true.
No, that's true. And I guess it's one of those things in this particular sport or industry that it's glorifies the right word, but they're always the do more, more exercise, eat less, blah blah blah, and it's like that's not always going to be the case, especially in the sparkle category, because as we know, it's not always about getting down to that little bit of nitty gritty stuff. So that should be a fun one.
Well, it's across all sports. It's not even just bodybuilding. It's just, I think it's a very old school approach. It's from basically when we didn't know any better, so we figured, train more, and that will give us more results. It's very old school. It's not, now we know better, and we know that rest is very important for a bunch of different reasons, which we can go into later, but yeah, it's just very old-fashioned like approach of just literally just not knowing better. It's like going back to the dark ages of bodybuilding or dark ages of sport.
Yeah. And again, like a lot of things, that's the cool thing is like the more research is done, not just from the science base, but also, the more experience people have with different types of people that are coming into sport, we do learn new things. And I'm constantly learning new things. Things that we took as being gospel now are kind of like, well, what moron taught you that? It's, and I guess that's the thing about the sport is it's really slow to adapt. So there are still people out there that do go with the whole, I'm just going to take all your food away and you're going to be doing cardio from, when's prep start? Next week. So you're off on 3 hours of cardio from 18 weeks out and you're like.
And you're allowed 50 grams of broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then 2 grams of salt.
Yep. And only if it's Himalayan rock salt because, and you must poach it all in coconut water. Okay. All right.
I've never heard that one.
I know. I have seen somebody's like, and then you go, okay.
But yes, basically, suffering does not mean you will get a medal. Just because you are suffering more and you are putting in more work does not mean that you're actually going to do better. Is kind of the main thing here. Like, especially in bodybuilding, there's like I think it's probably because there's a culture of suffering. Because prep is kind of suffering. Like, most people are like, why would you choose to do that?
This is true.
Very much the way I feel about people who choose to do marathons. Why would you run? So it's for people who enjoy some form of suffering. We just have a specific type of suffering. But then people feel like if they're not suffering, that they're not actually doing enough and that they're not doing the work that's required to get them the best on stage that they can be, which isn't necessarily true. Because some people are able to actually, like, especially as you get on in the sport, it actually should get significantly easier. Your first prep, in theory, should be the hardest. If it's getting harder and harder, unless you've got some like hormonal issue or something else is going on, in theory, it should be getting easier.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that the first prep is generally the hardest because if you've had a good off season and you stayed within, generally are going to be leaner than, say, where you started your first one. Frequently, I say to people, it's like, your first show, look at that as your test run to get lean enough to be your starting point. You're not going to get to that level that you would want to later on. You may actually be where some people start their prep, but that for you could have been quite a progression to get to that level. So generally, if you're starting from there, your prep is going to be a little bit easier. I mean, yes, there is an element of suffering in it, and prep is not easy. If it was easy, I just had this discussion with a client earlier. If prep was easy, everybody would do it, and everybody would be walking around shredded and jacked. And the truth is, most of us can't do it, or are not going to be able to do it successfully. Yeah, there's an element of suffering, but it's not supposed to be medieval torture. Oh, unless you're into that sort of shit, then yeah. So anyway, I mean, there's lots of mistakes people make. I guess, and one of the things we'll go through is like some common mistakes that people make. Like, you've got, I think, when you think about working smarter, what it actually means is like Rach and I were talking before about, you've got efficiency versus effort. So you've got maximum physique response from the minimum of effective work. That's what you're trying to go for. You want to get the maximum stimulus without going into that very serious fatigue where your recovery is really, taking too long. So you've got that whole stimulus versus fatigue. So maximum stimulus versus minimum unnecessary fatigues. If you've got too much fatigue, you're going to minimize your progress. So that's where people, I think, where they forget to look at recovery, they forget to look at what the purpose is. It's an interesting.
Well, it's like my slightly controversial be unfit in the off season is better for a starting point of prep. It's a bit like that. If you are doing lots of cardio all through off season, like yeah, you might be working hard. And same with if you start your prep, bang off the boat doing 2 hours of cardio, then yeah, you're gonna get fit after 12 weeks. You're gonna get pretty fit towards the end. So you're gonna be up to like what 4 hours of cardio to get the same amount of stimulus because you're also getting lighter. So not only are you getting fitter, you're also getting lighter. A lot of people will lose around 10 kgs, bikini girls.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weight to be losing. Imagine you're wearing a 10 kg weight vest doing your cardio. It would feel pretty heavy. So your cardio is getting significantly easier in more the ways than one, and now you need to do more of it. So if you do that earlier and you are like, yes, I'm just going to grind, it actually can be worse because now you're going to be absolutely exhausted. You have no time to do anything. You barely have time to sleep. You're up at 4 a.m. every morning. It's just, yeah, it's not going to work that well. If you are constantly not sleeping properly, or especially Chris always says, for example, that he would rather you get the extra sleep than actually do your cardio. Because if you are constantly getting up at 4 a.m. and maybe you don't get home to the gym from the gym until 9, 10 p.m., you're not going to be getting possibly as much sleep as you actually need to recover. If you are not recovering, there's not a lot of point to the exercise to begin with because you need to recover from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's recovery is as important as, the level of exertion that you're putting into it. If you don't allow yourself the recovery time, and frequently as competitive bodybuilders, they don't. It's like, you've got all these different fitness devices that will track things like, what's your level of recovery and all that. Personally, I don't think any bodybuilder should ever wear one of those because I know for a fact they're going to always come back saying, you're only about 50% recovery. You should go home and go to bed. And you're like, yeah, sweet. Sorry, coach. My Whoop device says I should be sleeping. You're like, yeah, no. If you don't allow the recovery, then it doesn't matter how much stimulus you put in. You're just not going to get a result. That's why I guess the prep side is becoming harder because there's that thing called metabolic adaptation. If you go hard to start off with, like you go into a massive deficit, I've seen this happen before, and it's like straight off the bat, they're like, boom, I am in, a sub, again, depending where you're starting from. It's all relative. But if you go straight in for, you're in a sub 1,000 calorie deficit, I've seen people start prep at 1,200 calories and go, Jesus. And you're starting at 90 minutes plus cardio. Well, your body's going to adapt to that level of stimulus. Your metabolism is going to adapt to that level of stimulus. So the only thing you can do is add more stimulus. It's going to become a rule, diminishing returns, right? So, yeah.
And what people also don't realize is that during prep, as you get lower in calories, lower in energy, you actually subconsciously do things to preserve energy as well. So things like fidgeting or just like getting up to walk, like go from A to B. Once you get really tired, you will subconsciously stop doing that. You will subconsciously stop moving around just while you're sitting somewhere. Just moving around in your chair, that burns calories. It might not be much, but it all adds up. So all of those things, like even just walking across the room, you might not want to do that when you're tired. Most likely you won't. You're like, I can't get up. I'm too tired. So all of those little things, you're not doing them anymore. So you're burning a lot less calories. It could be 100 a day. When you're only getting 900 calories, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's again, it's that as you go through the growth season and prep, you adapt. That's what our bodies are designed to do. If you, like common mistakes people make, like I'm a big fan of volume style training, but it's done with an intention. Yeah. Well, it works for the most part. It does work particularly well for female athletes. But if you put too much volume in straight off the bat, like in your first volume program, I think it was nowhere near what it got to. It gets to the point where you girls start looking and go, okay, he's officially lost the plot and he's trying to kill us. I'm like,
okay, slight tangent here, but I did once get asked by a random in the gym if I hate myself.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to my friend about my program. I was telling her my plan for the day. And this guy comes up to me and is like, I'm sorry, but do you hate yourself? I'm like, no, just my coach hates me.
Yeah. But it's meant with love, the intention is good. But there's volume with an intent and there's junk volume, there's just spending too long at the gym and just blasting through. You'll hear people talk about saying, oh, okay, the perfect number of sets is X to Y and the perfect number of rep range is this to that. All of that goes out the window when you see how somebody responds. So, while I like volume training because it's been effective, if it doesn't work or it's too much volume too soon, well, then you have to adapt. If you're getting, another mistake is treating fatigue like it's progress, and that can come from volume. And if you are walking around, prep starts Monday, which for a fair few ladies in our team, it does start on Monday. Not Rachel though; she's off the hook this year. If it starts Monday and by Tuesday you're already knackered, that's not progress. That's just fatigue. So we need to, that's got to keep that in mind.
Remembering that even to build muscle, so yes, you tear your muscles into little shreds while you're in the gym, that's literally what you're doing. You're tearing your muscle fibers, but that isn't actually what grows the muscle. What grows the muscle is when they heal and they heal stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the recovery part of it is actually what is growing the muscle. If you're not recovering, you're not going to grow. Yeah. So that's what I think a lot of people forget, that rest is incredibly important. Like, regardless of what season you're in, if you are not recovering, your body is not going to allow the function that you need it to do.
Growth doesn't happen when you're at the gym destroying the muscle fiber. You can go there and bang out everything you want. You can be doing 200 kilo hip thrusts or, whatever it is, Bulgarians. I did bring back for one person in their program, the Bulgarian death drop of doom.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, they called me a few nasty names as well, I might say.
I mean...
I thought so too. I was like, I'll probably get this. Yeah, I did. But if you are getting up at 3 a.m. because you must get in an hour of cardio before you're going to work, and then so you're going to bed, whatever, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and you're robbing yourself of that recovery time, your metabolism's going to appreciate you better if you've let it do its recovery. Recovery takes a set period of time. You need the rest. You need the downtime. So yeah, don't, go and bang all the stuff out you want in the gym at all. But if you're not getting that sleep, it's not going to be effective. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to get no added growth. More isn't better.
Yeah, well, it's like a common misconception of people, like, even just thinking that DOMs, like, being sore after a workout, that's their progress and that means that they're growing and that they're doing everything right. And it really doesn't. Like, you can not have DOMs and still have worked really hard and still have, like, done everything properly and still be growing. DOMs, and it's not actually a measurement of anything other than, okay, yes, I hurt and I'm still recovering. I haven't actually recovered yet. If anything, it's saying that you haven't recovered.
Exactly. And DOMS in itself is not a bad thing, depending on how long it takes you to recover, where you are in a training cycle. It might be a new training program and your adaptation is taking time.
First 2 weeks are always the worst.
Yeah. And then it's usually you've got used to it, and then I change the program and go, ha, because I'm sick and twisted like that. But, it's like, again, more isn't always better. It's like, you don't need to have 8 different exercises on a glute day. This whole, I must hit my glutes from every single angle. Well,
I mean, a lot of them are the same angle.
I know. And you're hitting the same muscle from a slightly different angle, but the reality is you're not recruiting any new muscle fibers. So, doing 5 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 12, 10, you're doing overloading, periodization, all that sort of stuff. If you've got 4 exercises that are targeting the muscle in that day, and you can get in and out in 60 minutes or thereabouts, it's going to be more effective than spending 2 hours at the gym doing 8 different movements, doing multiple different rep ranges, doing all this sort of stuff. You're just overstimulating the muscle that unless you're an elite level pro athlete that's jacked up to the eyeballs, you're not going to recover in time. So doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it's like all the people who say that you need to do 5 leg days or something, and I'm like, how are you recovering from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
3,
4
is
maybe.
plenty.
3 is 3 to 4 is plenty. I mean, I tend to, it depends on the goal.
Depends on what you're doing as well. Like a wellness girl might be more likely to do 4, but most people 3 is going to be plenty if you're working hard enough.
Yeah, and what's your schedule like? How much recovery time are you putting in between workouts? It's like, sometimes I will do leg days back to back, but that might be anterior, posterior. It's just, again, you still got to allow that particular muscle group. You can't hit glutes every day because, again, there's only so many muscles in the glutes. So what are you going to do? So, 3 main ones. Yeah. Then you get people say, oh, there's this one and that one, and there's this little supporting muscle. You're like, no, just go away. Or they've spent way too much time watching TikTok and Instagram, and I still get it now, sent through what if we put this one in my program? Yeah. Roll your eyes.
We don't need to speak about those exercises.
I mean, some of them I look at it and go, that could be fun. And then I go.
I mean, a lot of them I look at them and I'm like, that looks like a really way to die. Like, just get injured.
Yeah. With your coordination skills, we should, some of those ones, we just take that one.
Come on. Don't be mean.
I'm just being fair and accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
There's more than one plane of motion going on. No, not for Rich.
Yep. I am not the most, I'm not known for my coordination.
I can't talk neither am I. But again, it comes down to that training and picking the exercise with intent. Like, not every glute exercise works for everybody. Like, personally, there's certain ones that I really, really like, and they have shown to be very, very effective. But on some people, they just don't do squat, It's like, well, okay, well, don't put that in the program then, because it's not working. So, again, it's picking those exercises. Also, working with your coach is saying, actually, I don't get anything out of that exercise. And I frequently hear that. It's like, and I'm like, what do you mean you're not feeling that in this particular muscle? It's like, and they're like, well, when I do this, I just don't get. And you're like, okay, well,
Do something else.
Do something else. Change the exercise. But then again, that goes into the other thing, is like changing your program too frequently. If it's working, you don't need to change it. I mean, people talk about, oh, you need to shock the body, you need to do all this sort of stuff. But, it takes time to progress. If you don't take the time... It takes longer
than people think.
Yeah.
So much longer than people think. It's not like you will suddenly get buff within 6 months, unless you're like, have another supplements. But if you aren't doing that, or even if you are sometimes, it takes longer to build muscle than people realize. It's years. Yep. It's not just a couple of weeks, couple of months. When people post like comparisons and they're like, yeah, my growth within like 6 weeks, I'm like, usually you're posing differently, or the lighting is just hitting you right.
Yeah, it's like you've actually changed the way that you flex or extend through your hips. That's why your glutes look like they've grown.
Oh, my biggest pet peeve is the side on relaxed, and people are like hip hinging, bending over in the second photo, but they're standing up straight with their hips tucked in on the first photo, and I'm like,
yeah, but people do fall for it. But again, that's right. If you're changing stuff too frequently, I generally about every 6 weeks I'll adapt some of the programs, but generally, like, even like I'll work in certain phases that I like to work in. But the second phase is normally just a variation of the first phase. So the reality is they'll probably be anywhere around 9 weeks on average before you change the program around. Might change the rep range around a little bit, might change the the actual amount of weight that's being used. But if it's working, you don't need to change it. I mean, the reality of it is, if you get bored, that's one thing. But generally, if somebody says your program is changed every 4 weeks, that's just another way for them to charge you for it. It's just, they're just proving that they're doing their work. And it's like, well, if hip thrusts happen to be the most effective exercise for you, why the hell would we take them out of your program?
Well, the other thing that's really important to note is, because bodybuilding is so data-driven, well, actually most sports are, but if you then start doing extra beyond what you've been told to do, and you aren't telling your coach about it, that affects your data. So then all of a sudden, maybe like numbers start not making sense, or like maybe you suddenly don't drop weight because now you're holding water because cortisol's up, you're stressed out, not recovering, and your coach is like, why the hell is this happening? What's going on? You're barely training, like what's happening? But in reality, you're actually doing double what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so that's another really important thing there as well.
Yeah. So it's like, it's stick to what's working for you. It again comes down to that recovery side. It's the same when it comes to, like, I've seen programs during prep where arbitrarily you can see their calories are being cut every certain period, like say 30 days. And then at that same point, they cut the calories, and it's usually something really dumbass like 250 calories. And you can see it. It's a linear thing. It's like literally, okay, started here. We were in a 250 calorie deficit. 30 days later, we're in a 500 calorie deficit, and boom, boom, boom. And it's, you can chart it and see it. And then at the same time, they're saying, okay, we're adding 20 minutes of cardio. We're adding 20 minutes of cardio. But they're not looking at the data. They're not looking at what's happening. If you are losing to the target, you're going to hit your goals. And that's a really important thing to work with your coaches is establish. You need to know what the goal is as well. It's all very well and good saying, oh, you're on track. And you're like, oh, what track is it? Am I ready? It's like, no, the expected target in this time frame is for you to be between X and Y. That's what we're looking for. If you hit that goal and you are at X deficit and Y cardio, why do you need to reduce your calories and increase your cardio if you're already tracking in the right way? Again, that comes down to it's called stupid.
No, I think a lot of it comes down to it's very big in PT culture. Like, I know that a lot of PTs will use it as a sales method. It's like, if you're hurting, you feel like you're working harder, you feel like you're making more progress. So then that kind of goes across to most sports and everything. If a coach is making you feel like you're working harder, it makes you feel good because you feel like you're going to make more progress because of it. In reality, again, like you can have, like, for example, me, so not last year before, so what's that, 2023. So when I got the World Championship swimsuit title, I had the easiest prep ever. Like, I barely dieted and barely did any cardio. I think I got up to, 30 minutes?
That
like,
was
the last month. I mean, I was on, 1,500 calories most of the time. Like, I was barely even doing anything. And that was one of my best results. And I honestly felt terrible when people would ask me about, how my prep is, and they were saying how hard it was. And I'm like, I barely did anything. So, you can't, it depends on the person. It depends on where you're at. Like last year, I had a much harder prep and it was not as fun. But you can have an easy prep and still do really well and be exactly where you need to be. Doing more does not translate to getting a better result.
And I think that really is particularly with cardio, the myth of more cardio, more versus smarter cardio. You introduce more cardio as you respond to the data, not panicking because they're a kilo or so behind. Because it may not have anything to do with the energy expenditure. It could be a digestion issue, could be, cortisol, could be stress, could be thyroid issues. That's why blood work is so important. We've talked about that previously. But, that comes back to how do you, the adaptation thing. Like if you start with really high cardio, where do you move to? It's there's only so many days most of us, so many hours most of us can spend in the gym, short of getting one of those little, what do you call them, walking pads to put at your desk, and then you just stand there and you're doing you're at work, but you're actually doing cardio at the same time. It doesn't necessarily make sense. And frequently more cardio is counterproductive. Like if your strength is dropping during prep, which does happen for a lot of people, that's, can be an indicator of you're not feeding the muscle properly. It can lead to increased muscle loss, which obviously can increase fatigue, which means it can actually make you look flat, not lean. And that's a big difference. And it's probably something we see more in the natural side of the sport where people overdo it in order to get leaner. But the reality is they just look flat because they've got no carbohydrates in their system. They're not holding any glycogen in the muscle cells. And you can't hold a pump, so it's just not going to work.
Well, you also just look miserable on stage because you're tired. And it really shows, especially in the less muscular categories for the females, where presentation is incredibly important. If you are very tired on stage day, or even just tired at all, it's very hard to get that high energy presentation that you need and to look like you're enjoying yourself, even if you want to fall over, which you shouldn't. It's hard to get a good presentation on stage if you are exhausted. But I really like, there's actually an example that Adam Bonilla, Ashley Caldwell's coach, uses, and it's really cool. So he's it's like having, you've got your gun, and you've got a certain amount of bullets that can go in your gun. So it's each shot you take, so you've got boom, cardio, boom, cut calories. You've only got so many bullets. Then you run out. And then what? You can't shoot anymore. You're done. There's nothing left.
Yep.
Now you're just going to die.
Now you're just miserable for the sake
of it. That one was a bit dramatic. But no, I like the analogy because it's you've run out. It's anything, you can use it as even a drink bottle. Pour out a little bit. Pour out a little bit. And then once it's empty, now what? You've got nothing left. You can't go anywhere else. You can't increase the cardio anymore. You can't decrease the calories anymore. That's it. You're just stuck.
Well, that's the thing about planning and tracking data is, yeah, you're right. There are only so many bullets in a gun. There are only so many bows in an arrow. There's no
bows in an arrow.
Arrows in a bow. I freaking know. Jesus,
arrows in a quiver.
What is in this
it's
stuff?
A quiver.
A quiver. Oh, that's a far too big a word for today.
Come on, there's only so many weapons.
There's only so many tricks up your sleeve. There is no magic solution. So that's where you have to track stuff and watch the how you adapt to it. They're tools, right? So cardio is a tool. You don't build it's not the foundation of your prep. You don't build your prep on how much cardio you're doing. You build your prep on how much muscle you have to start the frickin' prep. So your foundation for your prep and the foundation for a successful prep and an efficient prep is done in the off season. And that's why, I don't know how many times Rachel's heard me say it, the magic is done in the off season, not in the 16 to 20 weeks of prep. So cardio is a tool. It's one of the bullets in the guns. It's one of the arrows in the quiver. See, I got it that time. See, I feel good.
But yeah, no, something else that I think is really important is just like, especially first timers, like that people will often think that they cannot tell their coach that they are tired. So if you are constantly saying to your coach that you are okay, even if you are absolutely exhausted, because you think that, oh yes, I need to just keep going, push through it. This is where people run into like really big health issues. So there's been people who have like passed out, got concussions. Like I'm pretty sure like there was one girl who died. I'm not sure if it was because of that or what else happened, but you can get really bad health conditions from just not telling your coach that you are exhausted. Like if you are getting to the point where I have been there before where I've noticed that I couldn't even stand up without feeling exhausted. Just standing was like running like a sprint. Like that was exhausting. So that at that point I said to my coach, like, hey, look, I'm actually exhausted. And then he was like, okay, go rest, take a day off, take a couple of days off. So it's really important to tell your coach these things before it gets to the point where you've got issues, because otherwise you can screw with your hormones, all your body functions, everything starts kind of shutting down because your body's like, we have no energy, we need to stop, this is bad, shut down production, and then it's very hard to get back on track again.
Yeah, rest days are programmed for a reason. It's for recovery. It's like, I mean, I've got one of the girls on the team at the moment. She's even literally just come and said, I've now realized why you put those rest days in there and the importance of how you do them, because you just go balls to the wall, and she's an absolute little unit. And I'm like, oh, so now you understand why I put rest days in, and now you understand why there's a type of food that's in it for recovery, because they're important. You know, it's you can't have an efficient prep if you're not taking care of yourself, and you have to be. Again, it comes down to what Rachel said. You've got to have that honesty of like tracking the data, so that, you know, coaches are pretty smart. If things aren't responding a certain way, it normally means something's not being done right. Like I have, you know, but again, in prep, you're going to have the wobbles. Or I said to somebody today, it's like, you're going to hit waves. You know, it's not like you torpedoed the frickin' Titanic because you went and ate a Cadbury cream egg. It's, why did you eat the Cadbury cream egg? Because my boyfriend bought it for me. Well, first of all, your boyfriend's a moron.
But second of all, Cadbury cream eggs are delicious.
I know, exactly. So it's like, well, I could understand the weakness. It's like, yeah, somebody, you're on like, you know, 100 grams of carbs a day, and somebody waves something on you that's got 72 grams per 100 grams, you know, is carbs. And you're like, you're only human. What are you supposed to do?
Anyway,
it's like,
sidetracked.
Yeah. So it's like, it's recovery. But it comes down to like, I often talk about training economy as well. It's like, if you are doing a 60-minute focus session where you've got timed rest periods between each sets, you know, you're following tempo is one of those weird things. Some people really are big on tempo, some people are not. Depends on who you are. But if you've got the rest periods programmed and like it's being programmed out, you're better off doing 60 minutes of focus, get in, get it done, than you are of doing a 2-hour unfocused session where you're spending like, you know, 5 minutes on the leg press, you know, scrolling through Instagram, or, you know, making sure you get that perfect side shot glute selfie and stuff like that. 2-hour unfocused sessions is not an economic use of your time. So again, it's going to eat into your recovery. It's going to eat into your time to actually be able to do things outside of prep, which is very important. So yeah, the economy of what you're doing. Be economic in what you're doing, not, you know, 2 hours faffing around doing everything else known to man.
So Chris, what are some signs that you see in the athletes and across coaching that people are fatigued, that they're not recovering properly? What do you see? What are some signs?
Persistent soreness is one. Like if they're complaining about DOMs consistently, especially after, say, 2 weeks of a new program. Strength dropping, that's a big one where you can see that. Amount and quality of sleep is another one. It's pretty common. Motivation is one. And also, I think self-loathing is a term where they basically feel that because they've done something that's not to plan, they're a complete disaster. They've failed. I hate it when somebody says, "I've let you down." I'm like, you didn't let me down. How did you let me down?
Direct them towards me and tell them the shit I do.
Yeah, I go, it's like, I expect these things. I just had a discussion with a client earlier today, and she was like going, "I'm really sorry I let you down." I said, I was waiting for the text that says that you had done it because all the indicators were there. But I needed that person to make that mistake themselves. I couldn't just keep saying, okay, well, you know, you do this, and you've already got these indicators, this will happen, because until they did it, they could not acknowledge that it was likely to happen. So yeah, the low motivation, seeing, you know, sometimes you'll see maybe not necessarily the scale weight is say sometimes that will just plateau at certain stages during prep. It happens. Don't panic about it. Like, oh my God, I'm the same weight today as I was 3 days ago. It's like, yeah, so.
Oh my God. Okay, example, my preps, usually the first month, my weight doesn't drop.
Nothing.
4 weeks, nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Just like, yeah, all right. Well, we know this, Rachel. It will come. It will come.
Yeah,
don't worry.
Some people, it does take time for the weight to drop. Sometimes you get stuck at a certain weight as well. For me, every time I hit 60 kgs, my body's like, nope, that's it.
Yep.
We're not going anywhere. And then it takes, a good month, sometimes even more, for it to then drop below, and then suddenly we're good again. But
I think it was about 6 weeks last time.
Yeah, it was like, it got to the point where even I was like, hey, Chris, are we good? Like,
yeah,
I know this is usual, but it feels like longer.
But when you looked at the pictures, your actual composition was changing. And so that's the thing. It's like you get hung up on one piece of data. Like I'm looking at how much sleep are you getting? Is that consistent? I also track things like body temperature for a lot of the girls. You know, what's your basal body temp? Is that consistent? Are we seeing, whatever, water intake, quality of sleep, stress, what's going on? And eventually when those things all sort of come into line, then the scales become important. But it's also, the reality is, if you look at the picture, you can see, like, you're getting leaner. Again, I was talking to a client this morning, and she was like, I'm really freaking out because I haven't dropped any weight in the last 5 days. And I'm like, looking at her going, I can see vascularity in your chest. How much more do you want to lose? And you're still 9 weeks out. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, okay. Can we just shut up about the body weight now?
The scale isn't everything, people.
No. And those are what I think going back to recovery is not about being lazy. It's strategic. One we were talking about before, bodybuilding doesn't give medals out for hard work. You could be the hardest worker in the room. It gives medals out for results. And results come from smart, efficient training and diet.
It's like, I actually just thought of this off the fly. It's almost like, if you're a race car, right, going around the track, eventually you have to stop for fuel. Otherwise, you're just going to run out of fuel, and now your car's not moving. Everyone else is going to zoom past you, and you are just stuck on the track. So if you think about it that way, you need to stop at some point. You cannot just keep going. Yeah, it might feel great to keep going and to be like, yeah, I'm zooming past everyone. This is great. Eventually, your car is just going to stop. It's just going to stop running because now you have no petrol. You're done. You've got no energy left. You're just going to stop making progress. And then that's when everyone else gets to go, I'm overtaking you.
Yep. Do that one more time. There's a meme. I can see that. That's a reel this week. Oh, Valerie's going to have fun with that one.
I thought it was a great example. Thank you very much.
Actually, it's very, very good. Yeah, we'll keep that analogy. But I think, there's always going to be signs that your prep is inefficient, and you have to recognize them as an athlete as well. You can't exclusively rely on your coach to recognize them for you. Are you plateauing despite your increasing your effort? Is your appearance not changing? Is your weight not changing? Are you constantly fatigued before you've even started your session? Are you waking up, is your strength declining? You're doing more and more cardio, you're just getting less return for it. And are you mentally burned out where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore? That's a really good sign when you have all that motivation in the world, and then now you're just resulting on just straight out grit. You're just grinding it out to get to the finish line. Well, that's a sign that your prep's really inefficient.
So see, the issue here is, Chris, that we come across one of the main problems that you experience as a coach, where people's RPE, their rate of perceived exertion, and how hard they think something is, doesn't match the reality. Mm-hmm. So some people, if you tell them, like, I want this to be a 10 out of 10 hard, like, you should be absolutely exhausted. For some people, they might think a 7 is a 10. Just because they've never hit that ceiling before, they don't know what. They just can't comprehend it because they've never figured it out before. Like, if you've never seen something, like if I tell you, describe the color purple to a blind person, how do you do that?
Well, we know I couldn't do that anyway. So
no, you couldn't. All right, yeah, describe the color purple to Chris. But how are you supposed to do that? So some people, they just can't. You can't imagine something that you've never experienced all the time. So if you think a 7 is a 10, it's very hard to push beyond that. But if you also are one of those people where you think 10 means that you have been hung, drawn, and quartered and dragged along by a horse across the road for 10 kilometers.
It's a lot of 10s in there.
Hey, some people like that. I can guarantee you, Brooke.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah.
So if you think that that's a 10, you're going to be like, oh, well, prep's actually not that bad. I still have all my organs running. They're all functioning. They're fine. I haven't collapsed and passed out yet. I'm all good. So, yeah, it's kind of making sure your reality matches the actual scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes down to like, I don't know, some competitors are just addicted to feeling exhausted because they think that means if they're exhausted, they're doing it right. Well, no, that means you're exhausted, and maybe you should be listening to that. You frequently hear people talking about overtraining. Well, what is overtraining? I mean, and it's all, again, that's individual. One person's overtraining could be another person's just normal. It's again, as long as you're progressing, then great. But you got to listen to your body. You got to listen to yourself. And, don't rely on social media personally, I think social media is ruining training efficiency because people are just like, well, I saw this person and she's doing blah, blah, blah. And you're like, that's called video and that's called editing. And that's not real.
We want to have something called critical thinking.
Yeah. But so that's, again, efficiency. It's about communication. It's about making sure that you are listening to your body, that you have that communication with your coach, that you can say, man, I am shagged. But it's efficient versus chaotic. Chaos is and motivation is only going to get you so far. There is going to become a point with a prep where it's about dedication and it's about, and motivation's not going to be at that full, 110% because you're hungry, you're tired, you really do want to go to bed and not do that cardio. And sometimes, I'll frequently say to people, go to bed, and, 30 minutes less cardio, not going to kill you. Do another 15 minutes tomorrow, do another 15 minutes a day after, just make sure you listen to yourself.
And then, make sure that any warning signs, so if you, for example, are feeling dizzy, because I've heard of so many girls who have had these issues, if you're feeling dizzy, like you're going to pass out, those kind of situations, that is a very clear sign to pull back, because you should not be feeling like you're about to pass out on the Stairmaster. You can feel tired and you can feel like maybe your legs are jelly, that's okay. Yeah, but if you feel like
every second of it.
Yes, but if you literally feel like you're about to go unconscious and you are feeling dizzy all the time, that is a very bad sign. That means you need some rest or potentially some food. Talk to your coach. Yeah. And if they are not a good coach, which there is a couple of them around, it happens.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're dizzy and passing out, that's hardcore red flag if they're telling you to keep going through that. I'm going to just, I would say that's probably not a good sign.
It's probably not a good match. All right, so before we get on to our Sharns, I've got a good one somebody sent through, and I'm pretty sure I actually know who this person is too. But a couple of things we want you to take out of today is some practical takeaways, is efficiency wins, right? So start with when you think about cardio training calories, start with a minimum effective dose. Don't start with the maximum, because if you're going balls out and you're, as Rachel said, as a 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10, you ain't got nowhere to go. All right. So start with the minimum and work your way up. Train with intent. Track your lifts. Focus on execution. Focus on quality. Get in, get it done, be efficient. Don't go there for 3 or 4 hours because you're just, you're not eating for it. A couple other things is prioritize your exercise quality. Good selection doesn't necessarily mean more variety. Make sure you're increasing things like cardio strategically. Only do it when it's needed. Stick to your program. Give it time to work. And most importantly, as Rach said, bless you, build recovery in. Sleep, rest, stress management. Recover will make everything seem like it's going better.
I feel bad if you can get away with having an easy prep, because that's the best thing ever. If you can have a really, really easy prep, just be like, yes, this is great. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Don't necessarily tell everybody that it's easy, because you're not going to make a lot of friends. I got one of the girls in the team, I was like going, yeah, you're probably calories through prep, because she burns through calories like it's ridiculous. I think she's on 4,000 calories or something now. I said, your prep, you're probably going to be on like 2,500, 2,800 calories. I said, don't tell anybody else that, because they will kill you.
Everyone will hate you.
Yeah, there will be no love lost there.
But just appreciate that you now have all the brain power in the world to be able to work on things like your posing, your presentation, do your workouts, and you have energy, and you can go have a great time on stage and just have a blast backstage. Enjoy having the energy. You can have an easy prep. Amazing. You do not have to be 10 out of 10 suffering all the time to do well in bodybuilding. That is, I think, the key takeaway.
Key takeaway, yes. You do not need to die. There is no dying required. It does not win you medals if you don't. So speaking of low energy, this week's Sharns / Brooks Follies was a remote one, which they have called it Diet Brain at Registration. So I'm not going to throw anybody individual under the bus because they didn't actually name them. But this was a bit of a backwards and forwards conversation that I had with this person over the last week, so I thought it was quite funny. So, so picture this. It's registration day. It's show weekend. Peak weak brain is fully activated. Registration and tanning is at Extreme Nutrition. Registration starts at 1. Want to guess what time this person arrived?
5? 1 a.m.
Not quite. 7 a.m. in the morning. Now, Extreme doesn't open till 10. Registration doesn't start till 1. And this person said, no one's there, no athletes, no organisers, just this person sitting outside, according to her, I'm assuming this is her, questioning my existence. So already they're off to a strong start, right? But wait, it actually gets better. So forgot her shoes, her actual stage shoes. Did bring her bikini, so that's a win. At the time she thought that's a small win. I was like, great. So after sitting outside for about 3 hours, like a little lost delivery package from FedEx.
3 hours?
Registration, the store finally opens at 10. And the official just happened to be there, but that was actually me, I think. So the registration finally opens, so it started early. So she goes to check in, all right? So she gives her name, division, all good. You'd think so, right? Turns out, not quite so good. This person had registered for men's physique, not bikini, men's physique. Still, not entirely sure how that one happened, but that's true. And it happens. So at this point, we'll sort of give it a bit of laugh. But yeah, you wouldn't think that could get any better, right? And she's going to registration. Yep, gets better. She's going for registration. It's like you actually haven't paid for your annual fees or the show thing. Not really a problem, other than didn't bring a wallet. No payment, no bikini, no brain function. So now we've got wrong time, wrong division, no shoes, no wallet. So she's on a roll with this one. But at least the bikini was sorted. And no, turns out the bikini that she bought was a pro cut. She'd bought it off her coach. And in those days, pro cuts were absolutely not allowed for amateurs. So this is when I knew this was me doing the registration, because the official looks at her and says, do you have a plan B? That's it. At that moment, full meltdown, internal collapse, brain gone, in tears, on the floor. At this point, she says the official steps in and says, don't sweat it, we'll get this covered. And another competitor turned out the back and said, don't worry, I've got a spare bikini you can use, which was very nice. So she was saved by a stranger who had carbs in her system because she wasn't competing. So I guess the moral of the story of this particular Sharn is never attend registration alone on prep brain. If you're in prep, take a safety buddy, preferably one who's actually eaten carbs and knows what day it is and what class you're in. So I'm pretty sure it happens. So
it does. To be fair, I've done, I think, all of these just on different occasions. So I just haven't had it on the same time.
Yep.
Chris, probably you were about to say this, but I almost booked accommodation on the wrong days last year for our shows. Or was it accommodation or flights? I'm not sure. But I tried to book it on the wrong days. So, I've been banned from doing anything during prep by myself.
No,
so yes, I cannot blame you. Whoever this was, I cannot blame you because, I've forgotten my shoes before. I've showed up at the wrong time. I thought it was on a different day. Yeah.
Bought a way too small bikini.
I have, but I've never got caught back in those days.
More to the point, you never got told. It was more like, all right.
I think one of the times, but I can't remember if they just didn't check it or if I had a different suit that I showed them. Because that was the other way we used to do it, was that we would have a backup suit that we'd bring to check-ins and then we'd just wear the different suit.
Yeah. You think that we didn't know this. Anyway.
Hey,
it has been. I've actually seen girls walk on stage and go, that is not the bikini she bought to registration. And you're like, all right, remember that for myself. All right. So
for your bikinis, Chris, is that what you're remembering that for? So that you can wear smaller bikinis on stage?
Give people ideas, Rachel. We do not need to encourage this sort of behaviour, because no.
I have a picture of some shiny pink bedazzled trunks for you for Christmas in my brain right now.
I'm not letting you talk to my wife ever again. That's officially, I'm blocking all communication.
Purple, Belle will like the purple. I think it's purple.
No, don't give people, that's not an image that anybody, now I'm picturing Belle, she's probably creating this meme in her own mind where she's going to do like some caricature, it'll just pop up on the screen.
Oh no, she'll AI it. She can AI you a picture.
She will AI it. Yep. Don't give her any idea. My beloved, don't listen to Rachel. Remember, I love you dearly, unconditionally, forever. Don't listen to Rachel. She's just trying to cause trouble. Thank you. Yes. Anyway, we probably waffled on enough about efficiency and training properly for prep. To keep those Sharns coming in, it's always funny when we see them come in. That's some of them you can actually remember. Go, yeah, I remember that. And then some of them you're like, ooh, that's going to hurt. So keep those coming in. It must be time for Brooke to send another one in. She hasn't sent one for a while. So,
we might still have one that we haven't read out from Brooke, actually.
That's true. She did send a few. So,
But it is also
Anyway.
how people learn from our mistakes, you know?
Exactly. Yep. All right. All right. Well, that's enough for cardio for 1 week for a Monday morning, everybody. We, of course, thank you for your time, attention, and all the comments and feedback that we keep getting. Of course, we would be remiss in not telling you that if you did enjoy today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe on both Spotify and YouTube, because apparently it does really help the algorithms, and it also keeps the producer up, Rachel, as my back, if we remind you of that. So again, like, subscribe, and follow. We would appreciate that immensely. And we will see y'all next Monday morning bright and early for another episode and all sorts of goodness in the world of sparkles.
Enjoy your cardio, everybody.